rare bipartisanship on the same issue about China and human rights on the House floor. Let's bring in Florida Republican Senator Marco Rubio, who sits on the Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
What about what's being done when it comes to China and the Olympics? Is it enough in your mind, and what should be done?
Well, there's two things at play here. Obviously, the first is doing the right thing, right? I mean, calling these things out should matter, irrespective of how powerful that country is or how important they are geopolitically. But the other thing that there's evidence of here that's pretty clear is how dependent our economy has become on China. When I say our economy, it's the things we buy at stores, but it's also our corporations. I mean, we've got large, very influential, powerful organizations in our country in the business sector who rely on the access to the Chinese market and production in China for their bottom line. I mean, it is for them too valuable now to jeopardize. And I think that's true for the National Basketball Association. I think that's been true for Nike, for Apple, and a host of others. And that includes, I imagine, NBC as well with the coverage of the Olympic Games. I mean, if their coverage gets out of line, they could very well be barred from sending journalists there to cover an athletic competition. So I think that what we're seeing here is evidence that of how deeply intertwined they become into our economy and how much control it gives them over what we get to see, watch, buy, how much we pay for things, and what our companies are willing to say.
You know, in a speech you delivered today, you referenced Bill Clinton making this statement back in 2000 about pushing for China to be a part of the WTO. Take a listen.
We have a far greater chance of having a positive influence on China's actions if we welcome China into the world community instead of shutting it out. By joining the WTO, China is not simply agreeing to import more of our products. It is agreeing to import one of democracy's most cherished values, economic freedom.
You called that silly and wrong. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think with 20 years of hindsight, I believe that speech was about 20 years ago this very week. I think when you listen to those words now, that's actually not what's happened. What we've done is we've exported jobs. We've sent American jobs, American manufacturing capability. We exported that to China. China took it. They made our companies dependent. In many cases, they actually, stole the secrets of those companies, and now those companies are no longer there because they're doing it instead. And they've made us incredibly dependent on them to produce all kinds of things that we now rely on, including to defend our country. They've also become a place now where, we have a finance market now, a stock market and a Wall Street where you've got major American investment funds that are investing in companies that are developing weapons that will one day potentially be designed and aimed to kill American servicemen and women. And that's been the outcome of the last 20 years. It was a bad decision based on flawed assumptions, and now we're seeing the consequences of it.
Is there a responsibility for lawmakers to be talking to these companies or to the NBA or to others who they feel are doing the wrong things by interacting and dealing with China?
I think there is, and I think that's what's happening. But ultimately, you have to understand that all these companies that are publicly traded, they have quarterly reports. And if they get kicked out of China, their profits are going to go down, their costs are going to go up, and they're going to have to answer to their shareholders. So they're basically now in a trap that creates a situation in which we have American companies who benefit from being here in the United States and our laws and our system. American companies who consistently advocate now for policies or they advocate for policies that are good for China and bad for America because of what it would mean to their bottom line. So it's a very difficult situation to unwind now, but we have to. We have no choice. This cannot continue on this trend line, or the world's going to look very different 10 or 20 years from now.
You think the Biden administration is weak on China?
I do, and I think they're weak on China because they're divided. I think there are some people that recognize this threat, and I think there are others that are practitioners and believers in the failed bipartisan consensus that brought it to this point. And then you got John Kerry, which is a breed unto himself. John Kerry wants to do a climate deal with China, and he doesn't want to say or do anything that forces or creates a ruckus with the Chinese because he's hoping that his legacy in life is going to be that he cuts some deal with the Chinese on climate change, which, by the way, the Chinese won't keep because they don't keep any deal that's bad for them.
Candidate Trump and then President Trump talked a lot about China. Do you think former President Trump is getting back in this race?
I don't know. You'll have to ask him. I mean, I believe that if he runs, he's going to be the party's nominee. He's the most well-known and popular Republican among Republicans in the country. I don't have any idea as to what he's going to do, and he doesn't have to make that decision now.
But for you, you've mended ways after all the 2016 back and forth?
Well, yeah, look, I mean, I would tell people that when President Trump was president of the United States, I got a lot of good things done for Florida and for our country. We had a very good working relationship, and I don't, at the end of the day, we didn't agree on everything, but he seemed to always respect that. I don't believe he said a single negative word about me since the day I stopped running for president. So we had a good working relationship, which is possible, with people you don't agree with 100% of the time. But I do give him a lot of credit on China. I mean, the orthodoxy of the Republican Party and much of our politics was not what it is, was something very different. And he challenged that as a candidate, and I think he deserves credit for it.
Senator Marco Rubio, we appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.